show based on so much of your real life, how long was it in gestation that you wanted to do, with all the other characters and movies you've done, you know, how long was this dream gestating?
I mean, you know, it's funny, even when thinking about that back, I mean, it's, this project has been around for a couple years, but then having had that question asked a few times, I was like, you know, when I left my day job, I was thinking, well, I would love to do something based on my own life and like some medical, you know, I wasn't really sure what that was. Right. And that was way before Hangover, way before Community. So I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to do my own project and kind of fiddle around with some outlines and stuff like that. And it was just on my own, really not presenting to anybody. And then I think the opportunity just kind of presented itself in many ways. And it was in development like 2 years ago. And I think one of the producers wanted to do it as not necessarily based on my life, but maybe like a doctor from the South. And it was just preliminary discussions, nothing. We were just talking. Then we all just kind of came up organically. Why don't we just do something based on my life, you know? And
was it always in your mind a multi-camera, or was it ever a single camera?
No, I really wasn't sure. I think the producers wanted multi-camera, and I was having come from movies and from Community. I mean, if you want to close it, we can close it. Yeah. And then from Community, I would definitely consider myself, you know, like movie single camera guy. But then, I mean, I'll be brutally honest. I mean, after like 110 episodes of Community, I mean, I know single camera is definitely the sexy genre, but it's a demanding genre. This, like on Community especially, we'd have like 80-hour, 90-hour days. It's like, you know, I'm married with 2 kids, and you know, it's to get something like that. I mean, if you look at anything from Lost to Walking Dead to Community or anything, those hours are brutal. And I did want, you know, having been in this, a lot of times I'd be doing the Hangover movies at the same time as Community. So it was, I mean, people have no idea how hard it is, you know, to execute that. And then, you know, at some point I was like, well, you know, I'm married, I have 2 twin daughters who are 8 years old. You know, at this point in my life, I was like, when it was presented to me, I was like, okay, I was kind of coming around on it. And then I was like, okay, this is not, and then having a background in stand-up comedy, you know, if you watch me in all the talk shows, you know, I do well in those talk shows because I love feeding off the audience. And, you know, and I miss that, you know, because I had a stand-up comedy background, but I stopped doing stand-up because I was, A, wanted to, you know, continue my acting, and also B, because I didn't want to go on the road and want to be at home with my wife and kids. So I felt like this kind of, I was talking to my wife about it, it kind of like kills 2 birds with 1 stone, where I could, you know, perform for an audience, get that kind of instant gratification, and see if the audience can take your performance up to another level, and then still be at home.
every night other than Tuesday.
Yeah, every night on a Tuesday. But the cool thing is, I mean, we're really like, oh well, I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back, it's, you know, because the cast is top to bottom so talented, and we are all about, you know, we are the kind of multi-camera sitcom that, I mean, we're 2 takes and out. I mean, that's, so like right now we're doing a bunch of pre-tapes, you know, but the live to tape, I mean, people are surprised, will be like, you know, ours is half the amount of time as most multi-cameras, you know. So I heard back in the day Friends was like 8 hours. You know, we're like, a lot of times we're between 2 and 3 hours because we're really just, I think you're talking about perfect takes. I mean, you know, just stuff that is suitable for edit, you know, and then it's a lot harder than a lot of people think. So we really pride ourselves on like a really well-run ship, you know.
And in the first season, that's unusual.
It's unusual. But I think a lot of it's due to Mike Sikowitz and kind of his experience. He's been doing multi-camera for like 20 years. And he and I mean, if you read anything like in the trades, it's always like the star of the show and the showrunner get along, and they have the same vision, then good things happen. It's when you read about like the star and the showrunner not getting along, then those projects eventually dissolve. But fortunately, from the outset, we've just had like this amazing partnership, and it's only getting stronger. We're just both really focused people, and people have no idea like how, you know, we're focused like a lake. We always put our foot on the pedal, no matter how things go, good or bad. We just keep doing the big work. You know?
What was the moment? Because you mentioned leaving your day job. Do you have a particular moment, or was it a process where you just thought, because you've obviously put in so much work to go to med school to become a doctor, and that's a big decision to leave that behind. So what was kind of your trigger?
It was a combination of things. I mean, you know, I think the biggest mislead was like, I think I had like some sort of, I don't know, like dissociative fugue and say, oh, I was going to be an actor. No, I was doing theater in college. I was doing stand-up comedy in med school as a hobby. So all of my friends in medicine and my wife, who's a doctor, they were like, all of my friends were just like, when I said I was going to act full time, they're all like, yeah, we saw that coming. I was one of those guys. And then even my wife was like, when I married you, I knew I married an actor at heart, not a doctor. So they all kind of saw it coming when it happened. And but ironically, it was me who actually wanted to. I was the one a little bit more nervous to quit than my wife, because I just filmed Knocked Up, but I was very practical about it. I was like, well, was just a day player in that movie. I don't have any other offer, but all I know, I did come back to work very depressed because I just hung out with Paul Rudd and Katherine Heigl and Seth Rogen and Adam Scott and Jay Baruchel and Jonah Hill and Jason Segel, like the biggest names in comedy. And so it was like, and Judd Apatow, I was like, and I got to come back to this. It was just hard. It was hard. And it was like, I feel like my wife was like that college coach that told the star athlete, it's time to go pro. Just leave. It's time to leave. And it was so, I quit with really I had no jobs on the horizon. So it was, when I think about it back then, I was like, it was nerve-wracking. I quit a stable 6-figure job that I was tenured. I was a partner and had for the rest of my life with benefits. And I'm like going into something in your late 30s that chances are you probably won't make. But I did feel like even if I didn't make it, I needed to know. And I would go back to my day job, if I just needed to know, and something was just, it was just time to go, and then the hangover happened, and then community and this. That's kind of how I defined my career in many ways.
Since you're the last person we talked casting with a bunch of the other actors.
Sure.
Can you talk, was doing that Hot in Cleveland episode what made you bring on Foley and Cy?
Absolutely, yeah, because it was. Well, it's funny. While we were doing Hot in Cleveland last year, I was developing this, and so when I was offered to do the live episode, I'd done a couple of live appearances, like a couple on Sullivan and Son, and it was like in the big parts. I wanted to get some more multi-camera experience, and like years ago, I'd done like Till Death or 2.5 minutes, just like tiny one-line parts, but I wanted, knowing I was developing this, getting more experience under my belt, and then. The Hot in Cleveland live one was great because it was really pressure filled, and I was like, man, if I can survive this, I can survive anything, and then I did, and I had a good time doing it. And was with Albert, met Albert there, and I was a big fan of him on Trophy Wife. I'd already seen him on TV, and he was so funny. And then Dave Foley I'd met before, and we had worked together on movies and other projects before, but I got a chance to spend time with him all week, and I was like, yeah, we got to do, just like we got to do something. So. Yeah, it was because of that episode. I wrote the part of Dave in mind with Albert in mind because
And what about Susie?
Susie, I wanted from the get-go when this project was at another network. I mean, this was like in another incarnation form when I was like every time we had a table read or a practice run for Sony for the studio, I'd call Susie and I'd be like, you want to do it? Because we had worked together on some like. Basic cable non-union stuff, like this sketch comedy show with like unknown Asian actors, and then we had, but more significantly, we worked on Funny People on an outtake that with Adam Sandler, and she played my wife, and it always resonated with me, like, oh, she's so funny, we have such good chemistry, like you have to be my wife and everything. I remember telling her that when I worked together in 2008, I believe, and so I'd always thought of her for this, to be honest, so we were just lucky to have the people we wanted, and then some, and then with the cast to have Tisha Martin, Jonathan Slavin, Kate Simses, and Krista Marie. I mean, I think it's very, I think the show title is very misleading because it's such a strong ensemble, and it's and coming from Community and The Hangover, that as an executive producer on this, I'm a character actor. I still have the heart and soul of a character actor, so it's you just want the ensemble to be good. That's so important.
Why do you think live tweeting is so important during the show?
I think it is. To me, I think it's just kind of when you see the stars of the show, and this is any show, invested in the show, and now with social media being so prominent, you want to see the stars caring about the show, and I think you're able to reach out to people obviously in a much more direct and human manner, and I just think it humanizes everybody. But I think every Friday we get together at Sony. It's not like we do it separately. We get together at Sony right after rehearsal, and before I go to the writers' room because I'm one of the producers there. So on Friday after rehearsal and network run through, we go through a conference room and we just live tweet, and it's just great. And then I did that last Friday. Went to the writers' room and then turned on the TV. Everyone had left. This job for me is 24/7. So I went to the writers' room and I stayed there last Friday till probably about 10 o'clock. I was just writing, just kind of like figuring out some things at the production office, and I saw in the writers' room they had the show on TV, and I live tweeted. Yeah. I live tweeted from the office there. So.
Do you think that sometimes tweeting takes away from the actual show, because there are some actors who refuse? They go like, it distracts viewers. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Dave Foley said that. He was like, what did he say? He was like, yeah, and some people, I don't know, just like to watch a show, So I agree with that. I think if you're a millennial, you'll probably be able to multitask and do that. I know my kids, they're 8, and they probably could live tweet and write. I do think that, but I think you bring up a good point. I mean, I think shows like Community, who really, I think they owe their whole fan base to to the fervent online fan base that they had on Twitter. I mean, I think that really kept it alive every year. But I think this show is is multi-camera. It's a bit different. It's family oriented, but I'm surprised at how much traction it is. So I knew going in, I don't think this is a huge social media driven show like Community was or anything like that. But having said that, I was surprised over the week. There was just a lot of GIFs and a lot of memes that are being done just off of Dr. Ken stuff, which I did not expect. I didn't think it would be as, because I wanted to do something different too. I didn't want to follow up Community with another. I think that's the biggest thing. I wanted to do a multi-camera family show because it's a blessing and a curse when you're playing a character that's always crazy, and it was also hard when although I'm very grateful to have been on Community, my character never had a job for 5 years, so I really had to find a way to tether myself. And I was like, so there's a part of me just as an actor, oh my god, I'm glad my character is has a job, there's something to ground it, and so it was, for me to have a more grounded version, the most grounded role I've ever had, but I can still do the things I've learned on Community and The Hangover and the movies I've done and blend that together, and then knowing that it's different. It's like Letterman going from 12:30 to 11:30. You're going to change up your game a little bit, And so, I knew I would make adjustments that I knew I was more than equipped and talented to do. It's not that hard, But for me, it's been so much fun. And with this audience, Tuesday nights is what I live for, really, in terms of doing the show.
We have 3 more minutes too.
How much of your medical experience do you bring to the show? How many of the jokes? Have you ever said that to a patient or stuff along those lines?
It's not jokes directly I say to a patient, but definitely things that are coming up, like the seminar episode with the thyroid medication. I mean, that's based on a real patient. And a combination of people don't want to take their medications. That's a very real thing. And even in the pilot, the hemorrhoid, the colonoscopy one, that was based on a real patient. And then, I mean, there's one coming up that's the next week's episode, the Kevin O'Connell episode, that's based on Ken does stand-up comedy at Welltopia's physician banquet. That when I was at Kaiser Permanente, I used to do stand-up comedy at those things. So it's based on real phenomenons and real life triggers. Yeah, but I try also not to. Sometimes I find myself getting too technical, and then as my wife actually ironically said, you don't have to make it that. Just make it. Now the show has its own universe, so Allison is not Tran, my real wife. It's everyone's different. Molly is not Alexa and Zoe, my real kids. Dave is not my kid. So they're evolving their own separate universe. With these actors are bringing so much to the table. We're writing to them, not writing to me anymore, which I love. So we're writing to all of us now, and it's not just the other day I did this. No, it's the other day someone did this, and it's a lot more fun and a lot more collaborative.